Hello? It's Christy Gray, your newest hype girl and astrologer. Welcome to the Cosmic Hotline.
Hi, gorgeous, and welcome to this week's episode. Plus, I should also say, happy full moon. I hope that you're feeling really good. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely feeling the effects of change. And it's not just because we're in Gemini season and we've gone from like the earthly, grounded practicality nature of Taurus season into Gemini, which is very cerebral and fun and playful. I think it's these like more long-term effects that we're really starting to embark on, astrologically speaking, which includes Jupiter moving into Taurus, which happened on May 17th, which is where Jupiter will stay for the next 12 months. We've also got Pluto about to dip its toes back into Capricorn for the very last time, or we'll have a fleeting moment next year. But, we are feeling those effects of wrapping up seasons before beginning new ones. And then, of course, like Saturn's going to go retrograde this month, and it's, just really moved into Pisces. And so there's lots happening. There's this like energetic undercurrent of change and transformation. But like anytime we're faced with change, it's like we have to find our footing when we feel like we're on shaky territory. And it's not just Bali talking, I can tell you that. I definitely am feeling it with people I'm talking to. We're feeling like we're on the precipice of things, but we're not kind of sure what that looks like yet. So I've got lots to share with you. And last week I was absent for the very first time in almost 5 years. If I say I'm going to show up to something, no matter what it is, I will always commit to that. And you could thank my Saturn in Scorpio. And I didn't. And for good reason too. But my lips are sealed for now. All will be revealed soon. And I'll be back next week with not only a lunar update, because we have the Gemini new moon next week, I'm also going to give you a little bit of a announcement and update as well. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, let's move on to this week's episode. So this week's actually an interesting episode. It actually is a conversation that goes in lots of different directions. We haven't had an expert takeover in a while. We also haven't had an answering your questions episode either. And you can think of this episode as a combination of the two. Sarah is the most divine human being. I tell her all the time, she feels like sunshine to me. She's sunny, she's optimistic, and she goes into some insight in this episode of what it was like to navigate her Saturn return. The reason this episode's called How to Brand Yourself Using Your Natal Chart is that Sarah has a design background, she has a strategy background, she's in the process of actually, I'm going to say the word, pivoting. She's actually pivoting into a new business, and we wanted to have a conversation because she had a question for the Cosmic Hotline around, what can you look towards in your natal chart that would actually help you to really step in and maybe own your personal brand. Now, this conversation, like most conversations I have with people when I'm in real natal chart discussions and sessions, is it can go in lots of different directions. And so I'm going to premise that for today's episode. We talk a little bit about my brain, we talk about her brain, we talk about what to look in the natal chart, what she's thinking and feeling. And it isn't really until the second half of the episode that we actually dive into some of the aspects that you can look towards, and then also how Sarah can bring her personal brand to life with some of the things to consider. I think like everything when it comes to astrology is it's not cut and dry. It's not black and white. I'd love to say there's this like one placement that will give you insight into your purpose, or one placement that's going to give you insight as to how you can build abundance. And that's kind of not the case, because every single person's natal chart is unique and no two are the same. And it's about unearthing and exploring and getting insight from that person to help bring their natal chart to life. And I hope that you get that from this week's episode. I absolutely love Sarah, because how long have we been jamming out for through the language of the stars? It must be a couple of years.
Yeah, I think it's well over my Saturn's return. What's that, 3?
Yeah, but normally when somebody comes to find me, it's in those times of like trials and tribulations where you're trying to understand and gain an insight into what's actually happening in your life.
Yeah, it's not a fun time, but I have to say on the other side, powered with astrostrategy and yourself, it's so much better. So much better on the other side.
You know what, though? The reason I think it's so much better for you is because you're so proactive. Like every time we talk about something in relation to your natal chart or we pull that thread, because you and I tend to do that very often, you go and and I love it because you have a Scorpio moon, is you get into the trenches and you are like trying to understand. You will come back to me with insights that you've like found online. And like, I couldn't be happier because it just gives you more understanding and more language. And then you can apply it and then you can pull the thread on the next thing.
It's been fun. It's been transformational. A couple of years, definitely.
Well, I'm totally biased. So, and I'm sure everybody else tuning in is as well. We're all astro obsessed in one way or another. But what I love is that you had this amazing question and we were chatting on Instagram. And I thought this is the perfect opportunity for us to open up this conversation further for the Cosmic Hotline because it's a conversation I haven't had on the podcast before. It's been a while since we've had a guest on the podcast too to really unpack their natal chart. So I would love to hear from you. What was your question and what led you to this question? Because I know that there's a story attached to this.
So the question was, I'll start with the question and I'll give the how I got to the question, was when we are working particularly on any brand, but particularly say a personal brand, when we're like branding ourselves, should we be branding ourselves on a visual sense, I suppose, from like embodying the MC that's in our chart? So whatever sign that's in, should we be, I suppose, embodying that? Because from my understanding, that's your public image and your public facing self. So to me, it makes me feel most comfortable to show up as my ascendant, which is Libra. This is, balance and let's make everything harmonious and lovely. But the MC is in Cancer, which I also looked back at my natal chart, and this is where my light bulb moment happened, and I have to get all the answers, as you know. My MC in Cancer, but my South Node is also in Cancer, and my Sun is in Capricorn, and my North Node is in Capricorn. And then I went, oh my gosh, these have like a polarity with the signs. Started digging deep down this rabbit hole, axis Cancer and Capricorn, and I was like, wow. So I thought that's the question. What energy should we be embodying to put out into the world if we have, say, a personal brand? And how I got to that was for my Saturn's return, I still have an agency, a business that is not myself, it's a team. And throughout my transformational Saturn's return, we're now good friends. And on the other side, it's come out that I will be moving forward in the direction of a personal brand. My agency is still there, but now I've really found my purpose and what I really want to do in this lifetime and who I'm going to be helping and how I can really make an impact at a societal level, which excites me so much. So this is when, naturally being in the brand space, I thought I'm going to take a left of center approach with this and see how I've been doing so much work on the spirituality and diving into astrology with you. How can I bring some of this into what I'm doing moving forward in personal brand sense?
It's such a beautiful question because it's so loaded with intention. It's like, not only do you want to be of service and really step into your purpose, to me, it feels very intentional because I know that you're in this for the long game. And so it's like, you want to get every little piece of the puzzle right. And I think that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been like on my mind for, ages since I asked him a question, like, let's chat about this. Oh yeah, I just need to know all these answers.
Yeah. So what I might do is I might paint a little bit of a picture of your natal chart first. So anybody that's tuning in can start to kind of understand a little bit more of what makes you you. And you laid out some really good points before too. And I think the one thing I wanted to highlight first is that there's so much duality and polarity. And that's really normal in a natal chart. Like, oh my goodness, you and I are perfect examples of that. And that can be really hard sometimes. Like, so for anybody listening that has like a conflicting sun and moon sign, that's a perfect example of duality. Like I am a Virgo sun with an Aries moon and a Leo ascendant. Like that's duality. For you, Sarah, you're a Capricorn, Capricorn sun with a Scorpio moon and a Libra ascendant, also loaded with duality. And when you have that in a chart, it can actually be sometimes more difficult because you're multifaceted. And I think as human beings, we are anyway, but there's different parts of you waiting to be expressed. And when you start to kind of dig into it and you're like, well, hang on a minute, there's this Cancer Capricorn axis. These are on, the other end of the spectrum. This is duality. Like, how do I use this to my advantage? And what words do I use to encapsulate this energy? Is that kind of what you've been thinking and feeling?
Yes, 100%, 100% with the nail on the head. And because of this is where, like, so I didn't actually give the like extended backstory, which I now will because I knew polarity would come up a lot. Is what I've always done, and it only come to light, I suppose, through this transformational journey is because I have a branding agency and by trade I'm a graphic designer. So a lot of people, and I commonly heard this a lot throughout my years in business, is you're a designer that doesn't have a style. And at first I thought, wow, that's kind of offensive. Like you don't think I have style. However, when I came to realize it's that I don't have one set style. I fit the design to the client, and I'm quite, as you said before, multifaceted, even in a design sense. And so bringing it forward to what I'm going to be doing in my personal brand, which is not the same design, it's a different kind of design, solving problems and human-centered business strategy design, that kind of thing. It's still using this, I suppose, eclectic style that has lots of different polarities, juxtapositions, that kind of thing, and bringing elements together that into harmony that I suppose people wouldn't think go together, or solutions from different kind of solutions, bringing them together to create harmony and balance. And so when I saw that in my chart, the Cancer Capricorn axis, I thought, oh my gosh, that's the juxtaposition, that's the polarity, that's the entire theme of my life. The push pull, probably like everybody's life, but this is what really triggered it. So makes so much sense. You've hit the nail on the head.
Do you know what? Like, even like astrology aside, I know I'm not a designer, but in my opinion, I like a bit of aesthetic. I'm a Virgo. Being eclectic and being able to change your approach from client to client, brand to brand, isn't that what a great designer is? You'll probably have a preference of aesthetic, because I think we all do, but a great designer is somebody that can actually meet the client's expectations and surprise and delight them.
100%. That's design.
Yeah,
That
that's what I
is the
thought.
designing.
Sure, people will pick you based on, what you share or what your aesthetic is. But I think, anybody that wants to master whatever industry they're in, you have to be able to morph and change and adapt. It has that mutability to it, similar to astrology, where you have to be able to adapt to change and to be able to meet that client's expectations or those needs, to be able to deliver something that's exceptional. So, with Sarah's natal chart, she's a Capricorn stellium. And for anybody listening that's unsure of what a stellium is, it's not more than 3 planets in one sign, and they're all grouped together. A stellium is also known as a gang. And so, any of the energy that's in that particular group of celestial bodies will be quite intoxicating. So, for you, you have a Capricorn stellium, which includes your sun, it includes your north node, it includes Uranus, and it includes Neptune, and they're all congregating in the 4th house. And so there's a polarity in itself, because Capricorn is associated with the 10th house because it's ruled by Saturn. Whereas all of your Capricorn is in the 4th house, and your 4th house is ruled by the moon, and it's associated with Cancer. And so your axes are actually flipped. There is a bit of a disclaimer here though, because depending on the type of business, so say for instance, if we were working with your agency, we'd actually cast the natal chart for your agency, because that is what your customers interact with. But because you're stepping into a personal brand, we're going to use your natal chart for today. What I would say though is that when I have rebranded, or when I have done something quite significant in my business, I will also go to my business natal chart as well as my personal natal chart to give me insight as to how it will be received. The celestial bodies that stand out the most to me, and look, I do want to focus a lot on the midhaven today, but I do have to preface, like, always, always your sun. Like your sun sign is where you are destined to shine. Your sun sign is related to purpose and life goals, and it's such a big piece of the puzzle. And I have always said from the very beginning, if you like really lean into the positive expression of your sun sign, so the zodiac sign it's in and the house that it resides in, you are really leaning into astrology for your higher self. And so that's a integral for you when it comes to business. You're a sun in Capricorn, so you're 8 degrees Capricorn in the fourth house. And so, and because you've got a Capricorn stellium in your natal chart too, is that you're a hard worker, you're diligent. And I know even the personal brand that you're working towards, like you have really unpacked every single layer, every step of the way, because you're so dedicated to not only being of service, but also creating something that's really exceptional. And I think that's such a beautiful quality. And that's a really great insight too, as to Capricorn sun can be a little relentless. And I think you probably are relentless in other ways because, you'll keep pulling that thread, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. But because where it's placed, which is in the fourth house, which is home and family, which is very moon driven, it's very instinctive, it's very intuitive. It really does rule your internal world rather than the external world. Is that you have this beautiful blend of not only wanting to see someone succeed through a return on investment or meet an objective, it's also about how they feel throughout that process too. And you do that through experience. Would you say I'm right?
Well, I wouldn't say it that nicely, but yes, definitely. Thank you.
Well, you're thinking about all the options. It's not
Yeah.
just about having a successful business to you. I think you probably do receive a sense of satisfaction when you see someone achieve something or you achieve something in your business. But equally, it's important for the experience that you're creating and also the feeling and the result that you're able to provide the person that you are delivering an experience to.
Yes. 100%. 100%. If I'm not deeply connected, then it doesn't feel right for anyone.
Yeah. So
Mm.
this undercurrent of the fourth house, and you actually were the words you used then were beautiful as this like deeply connected. Because for me, this also really speaks to the axis in your natal chart and your Scorpio moon. Because you need to be really feeling something on an intense level so that you're excited about it, you're committed to it, you need to feel connected to it because that's also going to contribute to the work that you deliver too.
Interesting.
It's important because that connection and that relationship building in business is like something that you pride yourself on and that's something you're very good at. And, that's one of the things that I love about you too is that you are so generous and empathetic and you want the best for anybody that you are interacting with. And, I think that that's such an important thing in business today because people shop people, not brands. And so you probably remember from the beginning, I thought it's been an amazing thing for you to do to step outside from your agency and step into your personal brand because you are the right person to do it because you create a memorable experience for people.
Thank you. It's such high praise. It's been a journey. I can't help it. I love it.
So I'll give you some insights as to like what you could essentially do if you were going through your natal chart. So say you're listening now, this is what I would recommend you could look towards. And so I'll share all of these because something may pique your interest. I'm not going to go through all the celestial bodies, but I picked out the majority of them anyway. But then for you, Sarah, I'm going to come back to your midhaven because I think that this is kind of like an integral piece of the puzzle. So as I mentioned before, always look towards your sun sign. Your sun sign is where you're destined to shine. It's where you should start with everything. If you are looking to see how you can obtain success and grow in your business, look towards the planet Jupiter. Saturn will give you insight as to where you need to commit, but also how you're going to persevere. Because having a business is like running a marathon, not a race. It's like the greatest personal development journey that you can ever go on. Saturn, it will give you insight as to how you're going to show up for that. Uranus will also give you insight because it's an outer planet. It's related to innovation. It will give you insight as to where you'll be a change maker. Neptune will give you insight as to where and how you will harness your intuition, but also where you could be equally open to deception in business. So that's something to be mindful of because Neptune, you can sometimes see things through rose-colored glasses. Pluto will give you insight as to where you may self-sabotage. Now, this is where things get interesting. And this is where I like to play with you, especially, and probably a lot of business owners that are in service-based businesses. Your ascendant. Your ascendant is how others will see you. This is how you present to the world. And yours is in Libra. And so this is good because it means, again, just like we were talking about before, is that people are really drawn to how you connect with them, the experience you create for them. That's very Libran, right? Libran's the personal air planet of the zodiac. It likes harmony. It likes connection. It likes collaboration because it is all about collaboration. And that's, how others see you. The midhaven, which is what others will recognize and notice you for because it's the legacy you leave behind. Your north node, which is related to purpose, it's really your ultimate soul destiny. So it is such a huge piece of the puzzle. And then this is always my wild card, and you know what I'm going to say probably is Chiron. And Chiron is an asteroid. It's known as the wounded healer. It shows us our limiting beliefs and our shadow self and how we turn our pain into power. And from a personal brand standpoint, especially if you've got Chiron in a really significant place, it will show you where you have potential to help people. And for you, you have a very significant Chiron placement. And so they're probably the main ones that I would lean into would be Sun, Ascendant, Midhaven, a little bit of North Node, but also Chiron to actually start to really go, okay, what does this look like for you and your personal brand? What are your thoughts on that?
I love that. I can already see the colors, all the different visual elements just on the visual scale. And then, there's the whole strategy behind it too. So that's, so many more points than I actually thought.
And see, this is the thing. I love writing, but like every now and then I might get a request for a bit of a clickbait article. If it is anything, it's normally to do with compatibility in relationships. Like that's one of the things I get asked, every single week from someone like, what type of zodiac sign should I date? And this is a thing, whether it's compatibility or whether it's personal branding, it's actually so much more complex than just one celestial body. And this is a perfect example of this, is that everything is interconnected in astrology. And if you were to just explore, because I know like there's a lot online around like it just pointing to the midhaven or the angles, but you could put a cap on your potential because you're so fixated on this one piece of the puzzle that you actually miss the magic of something that it could be connected to. It could be aspecting another celestial body. There could be something applying from it. And it puts things into perspective that every single zodiac sign is within you and every planet, celestial body, angle, point, house, everything has a role to play in what makes you you.
Yeah, wow. An entire map.
Oh, yeah. So, based on what I shared with you and some of the things that I kind of presented, what would you like to explore?
Wow. But there's a lot. I kind of have this idea of like bringing a little piece of those I think it was the 4 key ones that you mentioned together into harmony actually through and showcasing it through a personal brand. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
I suppose that when it comes time to rebrand, because we all need to rebrand or tweak or update, and you see people often do these big shifts. Now, I'm coming from a place of natal chart with this particular personal brand. If it comes time to rebrand and you don't feel in alignment with, I suppose, that version of yourself anymore, do you still look to the same areas, even though that's where you've been looking originally?
And that's such a beautiful question. I think it would depend on what type of expression you've been living in. Like, for example, I'll use myself because it's just the easiest, is I remember when I started my business and I was doing all my own branding. I think that's kind of normal. You're a bit like DIY in the beginning because you're trying to even work out if your business is sustainable. I know some people probably might invest in branding right from the get-go, but that definitely wasn't what I wanted to do. And I didn't really know who I was and what I was doing and who I was serving in the beginning. And then one of my first really big investments was I actually went through a rebranding process. And it's interesting because if I look back now, it was very aligned to what I was trying to create in that time frame. But because I was growing and evolving so rapidly through my astrology journey, I actually felt like I outgrew that branding within 6 to
Mm.
12 months.
Wow.
And so because I was also changing as a person and transforming, and so I almost needed the brand to emulate that change, I just felt like I needed to keep evolving and growing. That's you could challenge me and say that's a part of the business journey anyway, or you could say it's because I have 4 planets in Sagittarius, and so I'm constantly like, "Let's go big or go home." I think it depends on the person and how they're expressing themselves and if they're really owning their authenticity. I see this with business owners a lot where they're trying to portray something, and an agency is sometimes what they do is they'll
Mm.
hide behind this role of agency when really it's only one person because that feels safe.
Yes, totally, totally. And I think too, like with your brand particularly, I love that what you do with your business is you have to shift with your clients' needs. And so it's really comes back to that customer centricity. Not so much that you're rebranding for your customers, but or your clients, but you need them to feel connected. And I think that speaks also to your Sagittarius, what you were saying before, your Sagittarius planets, because they need to be fun. They need to be in the moment. They need to have that freedom to express the evolving evolution of Christy Gray, because we're always going to be evolving. So it makes sense. And I think if you build that into your brand from a branding perspective with the room to be free and to be able to adapt to the changing landscape, because clients' needs shift all the time, depending on your audience generally. I
Mm,
mean, I'm not so sure about the people who have been buying Campbell's soup, so that's not a plug. But Campbell's soup for 50 plus years, they probably don't change very much. But what we're talking about with your line of work and business, particularly, I love that your brand has whether you intended it to it or for it to happen or not, it has this room to be flexible and dynamic and shift with the clients, but also as you evolve as well.
mm. And it is, it's like such a hard thing sometimes to swallow too for even myself, because if I think about everything I learned throughout my corporate career is all of these beautiful beauty brands that I worked with, they were timeless. Like their branding it's really stood the test of time. And I know any great designer will tell you, like, I even saw this amazing Instagram post because I think Pepsi's rebranded again. And I'm pretty sure in total, Pepsi has rebranded 7 times, whereas Coca Cola has never rebranded. And that's a perfect example of like Coca Cola owns obviously the market share. They've had this iconic logo since the very beginning. I sometimes think, oh my goodness, like, do I want to have the next brand that's like Chanel out there? But in in reality, that's not me as a person because I always see that I'm evolving, I'm changing. I don't want to obviously rebrand, every 6 months, or every couple of years because it's such a big job anyway. But I think there's little things that you can do to re energize a brand or re energize yourself through your own transformation so that you are keeping up with trends because everything's moving so fast now and it's going to continue to do so with Pluto moving into Aquarius. And so I think it's something that we all have to be mindful of. It's like, how can you have something that's really recognizable, but it's also something that your customers know and love, but they can see that you're moving with them rather than away from them?
Exactly right. But I mean, you could also speak to like, let's say Gucci, or you could say Apple. They all have iconic logos and their logo if you saw it. However, they have flexibility within their brand to take on a floral trend, take on a neon color trend. They have room and flexibility to be iconic, yet have this area in which they can partner and collaborate with other brands for campaigns. And I think that's one of the things that comes up a lot, particularly with clients in the agency business that we work with, is that how can I collaborate with somebody because my brand is purple and their brand is green? And it's like, well, why aren't we building brands to change? Because the one thing that is constant is change. That's literally the one thing that is constant in our world. And it's not going anywhere. And people need to strap in because change happens all the time. And so I think we need to start looking at brands through how can we make it iconic but flexible to adapt to a changing landscape, but also a changing business. Like I think the way we build brands is completely outdated, or the way we should be building brands is completely outdated in inverted commas.
If this isn't your first time tuning into the Cosmic Hotline, well, you're bound to have heard me talk about astrostrategy. In my opinion, astrostrategy is the celestial edge you need to take your life to the next level. If you're somebody that's wondering what's on the horizon for the next 12 months, astrostrategy is unlike anything else because what we do together is we look for ways at how you can gain momentum. And here's the unique part. We align your big goals and dreams to your personal stars. Every session is super unique because together we unpack and expand your natal chart. We identify any sticking points and explore how you've been managing your time, energy, and greatest potential. But it's not just about where you're at. It's also about looking towards the future. What are your most impactful and influential activations? And how can I give you some tools and rituals that will help you to take big leaps towards your higher self? Astrostrategy includes 4 personalized sessions, plus you get a bonus quarterly strategy after each session. I want you to think of that as your own personal horoscope. Plus, there's a new addition to the Astrostrategy gang. You actually will get a digital calendar integration so you never miss an important activation date for your stars. Astrostrategy will help you see how you have the power to create change in every single moment. So, if you're ready to create your dream life, let Astrostrategy and me be your guide. So let's dive into some of these key placements for you. I know we touched on a couple before. Your ascendant, also known as your rising sign, is how others see you. Your sun is like your CEO. Your moon is like your HR department. And then your ascendant is your customer service. And like any retail store, you can kind of get a feel of the energy. And they're the 3 key pieces of the puzzle. And when you have an ascendant in Libra, Libra is very much associated with connection, collaboration, and aesthetic too, because it's ruled by Venus. It's like, I want to be surrounded by beautiful things. I want to create beautiful things. And as I've shared before, but it's a nice reminder when we talk about Libra, because normally the first thing that comes to someone's mind is Libra is indecisive. I reframe that entirely and I say Libra is not indecisive. You will feel like you are not at your center or you aren't balanced when you don't have enough information and inspiration. That's when you are trying to still collate information and insight. And so that also will be how you show up in your personal brand too, is that you naturally want to like dig into all the details. But if you're back and forth on something, means you don't have enough inspiration and ideas. And so you have to do data collection, is what I say. Because the data collection will help you to be decisive, and the decisiveness will then create certainty. So that's just something to be mindful of. And I think that's important for you too, because like your Libra ascendant also squares your Uranus. So there is an element of rebelliousness and doing things differently and innovation that needs to take place. And so not only will people see you as somebody that is going to help them to get the best result, they're going to see you as a disruptor too. And it's really important that you lean on that energy, because that's what will give your brand longevity moving forward. Because you're going to do things differently. I know this from a personal perspective, but this also is encapsulated in your natal chart. Now, with your midhaven in Cancer, because Cancer is a cardinal water sign and it's ruled by the moon. And there's kind of like some key themes here that I would say around how you could use this to your advantage, because this is what other people are going to recognize and notice you for. The key piece of the puzzle here is compassionate leadership. It's huge. And this talks to this like generosity and nurturing nature, because I always find that you will likely, if you have a Cancer midhaven, that you lead with empathy, sensitivity. You'll have a very nurturing qualities about you. And this also will transpire in your brand as somebody that will teach and counsel and somebody that will help and support others throughout that process. And so that's something to be really mindful of with any service that you're building out. And your brand is one of your pillars, is that it's not just about delivering something and it's one and done, see you later. You'll be really wanting to step them through that, because that's probably where you're going to feel a great sense of fulfillment.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Definitely with the new business is wildly different from the old business.
Yeah, because it's you, Cancer. It's the dreamer of the zodiac, really. So I do see it as a big piece of the puzzle for creative expression, because Cancer is associated with emotions and intuition. So you have a talent for creative expression anyway, not just because of your midhaven in Cancer, because of all these other pieces of the puzzle too. But you're going to want to tell a story. You're going to want to do that, whether it's through helping someone to bring their brand to life, whether that is through graphic design or a branding process, or whether it's through the experience they end up offering their clients.
Very cool.
Now, for you, and this is interesting because you have Chiron and Leo in the 11th house, and you have Chiron connected to your moon in your natal chart. It's connected to your north node and your sun. Like, it's also connected to Saturn. And when you have Chiron and Leo, and I know you and I have we've pulled the thread on this a lot. Leo is all about shining bright. It's ruled by the sun. And so it's not only about giving yourself permission to shine, moving into a personal brand, it's also helping other people and giving them permission to shine too. And I think when you can equip them with the right skills or tools or systems or processes, that's actually a really big piece of the puzzle of how they can actually really step into their authenticity and feel really powerful and potent and proud of what they're creating, because then they'll go on to create those memorable customer experiences for others.
Sounds delicious.
Sign
I
me
want
up.
that. Sign me up too.
What questions do you have on anything that I shared?
Yeah, it's just my brain is trying to translate all the visuals right now. And I've got so many ideas, but also like what you described really, really speaks to what are the services I'm going to be offering. So, and we've spoken about that on a personal note as well, but it really like makes my soul so happy and so warm knowing that I'm so in alignment with my chart. So, I mean, we're always in alignment because, as you've said, it's always a journey to unlock all of these things. But I think after the storm that's been the last couple of years, which has been a good storm, I think everybody, hopefully on the other side of Saturn's return, will know that that journey is for a reason. But yeah, it's so lovely to know that I'm really working into like my natal chart's promise as you call it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that anybody that's like looking to unearth their purpose, it is a journey. It's not like you wake up one day and you're like, oh, I know what it is and I'm so ready for it. And 9 times out of 10, even when you know what it is, you will not be ready for it. And I think that that's the most beautiful thing, is the more you keep going on the journey and the more you keep like taking action, even if it's the smallest of steps, you get to this place of alignment. And it's been a journey for you. It's been a few years. But
Yes.
the beautiful thing is you didn't give up on yourself throughout that process.
Exactly. Exactly right. I have to say, this is something that I think we've started talking about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, this personal brand that I'm usually a very quick action taker. If I want something, I'll do it. And this has been like, for me, like not pulling teeth, but almost like pulling teeth, because it's just taken such a long time to come to fruition. And I resonate exactly with what you said. Like, I still don't feel ready, but I know there's people out there that are waiting for me to help. And I know I can help them. I'm still working on this beautiful, ever unfolding rose. That is my journey. And it all comes together
At the most perfect time. And it will. And I think too, when you've had a business baby previously and then you're birthing a new one, you have to let go of that old identity that's attached to the previous business. And that can be a really challenging thing to do. I think the biggest thing for anybody listening, if you have a business and you're dreaming of it becoming bigger or bolder, or maybe you have a dream to really start something, maybe it's not the right time, is just take action. That's the best advice. It's like, don't wait for the perfect moment. And I'm saying this with 3 planets in Virgo, because if you wait for the perfect moment, it never arrives. And instead, what you'd be better doing is taking messy action, because that will allow you to finesse throughout the process, because you actually only know through experience. Purpose is one of these things. I think we're all searching for it, but it's not necessarily this destination that we reach. And I was listening to Marie Forleo because she was on, it was like an older episode on Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. And she just shared this like nugget of wisdom, and it was clarity comes from engagement, not thought. And I think that's what can happen a lot of the time is we'll think and think and think and overthink. And we think of all these different scenarios, but that actually can sometimes bring with it more confusion than clarity. Whereas through engaging in something, whether it's taking action, a practice, or moving the needle forward however we need to, that actually will make space for the epiphany and that clarity to drop in.
100% agreed. You need stuff in your own head a lot. Like, it's not hard to do.
Totally not. I think it is about continuing every single day to take small steps towards the dream that you want to create in your life. We do have, to a certain extent, a destiny that we're working towards. And that changes, I think, throughout our life. But there'll be core underpinning values or feelings or things that you want to do in this world. And it's really important that you take note of them, whether it's being of service, whether it's creating a memorable experience for someone, whether it's, something around like what brings you immense joy. And that can come and show up in lots of different forms, but it's about knowing what those key motivators are, those drivers, whether you do that through a values exercise or a motivators exercise, maybe exploring something like your natal chart. It just helps you to express it so you can step into your higher self. This is your life. You design it how you want to live it.